Good evening, all. I'm from Dr. Mohan's group of institutions. My name is Mrs. Sudha Vasudevan. I come from the one of the units of Dr. Mohan's group of institutions called Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. In short, it is called MDRF. I come from the Department of Food, Nutrition, Dietetic Research, which engages all about food and nutrition research. I'm I'm going to share you about our MDRF. MDRF was started in the year 1996. It started in the year 1996 by Dr. Mohan and his wife, late Dr. Rama Mohan. And MDRF is running its 25th year now, it's a Silver Jubilee year, and it was founded with a mission and vision of providing a world-class environment for research in diabetes and its complication. So you can think of a one roof for all diabetes-related research activities, and it is one of the Asia's largest research centers and connected with the larger diabetes hospital. And MDRF has got its own accreditation credit by ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, as an advanced center for genomic study, and in collaboration with Dr. Mohan's Education Academy and Hospital, International Diabetes Federation. And MDRF has been collaborated with various prestigious national and international centers. And we have various departments in MDRF, ranging from diabetology and cell and molecular biology, molecular genetics, and clinical trials, and population-based studies called epidemiology, food and nutrition and dietetic research, translational research, research biochemistry, vascular biology, and data management. And from MDRF, there are so many original studies have been carried out and published in a very reputed scientific peer-reviewed journals. And MDRF has to its credit more than 1,300 articles have been published. And Dr. Mohan is one of the topmost rated, globally renowned scientists engaged in diabetes research, besides being a very well-known clinician and diabetologist. And now from this MDRF today, we are going to cover about all the food and nutrition dietetic research that we do. And I come from a background with dietitian, being a dietitian turned into a research nutritionist, I would rather call it. And I have today with me my colleague, Dr. Shobhana Shanmugam, who is basically a biochemist and food scientist, and she oversees the entire food research of our department. And so with this overview, we have various credits to our department with various publications. We have more than 75 publications purely on food and nutrition research space. And we are going to share that with you very shortly. And now today, the various research activities that we conduct in MDRF, especially from my department, we started our research very humbly from our own in-house Chennai Urban Rural Epidemiological Studies called CURE study, way back probably 15, 16 years ago when the study was going on. That was a time that the whole world people were saying that we have moved into a westernized lifestyle, and dietary habits of Indians have moved into westernized dietary habits is one of the biggest reasons for increased rates of obesity and diabetes. So we wanted to really ask the question, have our diets really shifted from what our traditional food habits? And that's how we started our CURE study. And to our surprise, this population-based study opened up to show the fundamental research. It showed that our habits are very much like our own forefathers or grandparents and great grandparents. We continue to eat our traditional breakfast, like if a South Indian breakfast, like idli, dosa, and so on. And we have not moved away or drifted away to start eating everyday breakfast cereal or bread and things like that. So this made us really ponder. This is the first opening a study. In this study, we developed a unique food frequency questionnaire, a validated tool for the first time in the country to assess the diabetes-related dietary habits of the population, and we validated and published this study. So this tool has helped us to even wrap up the dietary habits of both Chennai urban and our rural population, and where we found out our habits remain the same. Then it made us really wonder, if we are eating the same foods what our forefathers ate, then why are we? Then we realized the quality of the same traditional foods what we are eating today may be so different from what it was prepared, how it was prepared and consumed by our forefathers. This made us really look at what is the main ingredient of our diet. So historically, Indians, ever since the Green Revolution, we have been consuming high carbohydrate diets, predominantly coming from the cereal staples. When I say cereal staple, we are talking about rice, wheat, and millets and all these grains, okay? And staple of a high carbohydrate diet. So this high carbohydrate diets we have been consuming even by our previous generation. Then we thought we must look at the quality of these carbohydrates. So this gave us an opportunity to first to come up how to assess the quality of the carbohydrate foods that we do. So to help us to develop this, and this is a new tool called glycemic index testing, through which we assess the property of the food. It's like a speedometer of a car. It's a speedometer of a food. It tells you in what speed the food gets digested and it absorbed in the blood, how quickly it raises the blood glucose. So with that, we started validating our methodology with the internationally recognized glycemic index testing centers at Oxford Brook Center under Professor Jayakumar Henry. And then we validated, published, and then we started almost last 13 years. We have been doing the GI testing in the country. To our knowledge, we are the first one to start this validated GI testing center. We have tested more than hundreds of foods we have tested so far. And that really made us to tell the traditional foods what we eat today are becoming a high-speed carbohydrate foods, be idli, dosa. So most of our foods and the rice what we eat is thoroughly highly polished than before. So it is highly refined carbohydrates in the form of refined grain. We are consuming more and more, and that could be a major risk factor to increase the blood sugar and the risk for diabetes. So we have shown through various studies, we have published this study. Now, when we have to keep up, we followed the same Chennai urban over 10 years again. So we have a very diverse literacy rates of people in our population, right, in our country. So to ask people what are your dietary habits, it's not a very simple task, It's very challenging to ask somebody your dietary habit. So we have to mimic the real life situation. So to help people to precisely tell their portion size, how big or how small. And we have evolved over 7 years. We worked hard to collect all possible recipes at home level and at restaurant level, fast food level, five-star level, low income, middle income, high income, and various recipes we have collected, standardized and estimated the nutrition value, taken the real image picture and launched Dr. Mohan's Atlas of Foods. With the commonly consumed foods have been captured, and when we show to the participant in the study or to the patient, it becomes easy for them to identify their size. Do I eat a large dosa or a medium dosa? Do I eat a big idli or a small idli? Those things like that. Do I eat a bigger bowl of rice or a small ladle of rice? We can show all these, and that is how we developed our GI testing center and the population-based dietary assessment. That gave us correlated very well from the population data. We found out the high carbohydrate diet and the quality we assessed through glycemic index, and we found that higher the glycemic index in our diet is very strongly correlated with a higher risk of diabetes. So we know now there are two things that we have to do. As a result, we are eating high-speed carbohydrate foods like white rice and those kind of a ground batter-based idli dosa product, and these we consume in large quantity. Together, they are called as glycemic load. So we are consuming more of this. This is how we started realizing the need for how do we go about to correct the dietary habits of people. We don't want to tell our patients or our general population not to eat our traditional food. Rather, we wanted to demonstrate how best we can improve our traditional food choices so that they don't become such a super speed, high GI food choices. That made us that in our team we need to engage lot more expertise, not just nutritionist and dietitian in the department. That's why we started expanding our department with food technologists, food scientists, and senior advisors with such background. So we have with us today Dr. Kamala Krishnaswamy, former director, National Institute of Nutrition, serving as a senior advisor for the nutrition. And we have Dr. Maleshi, former deputy director from Central Food Technology Research Institute from Mysuru, serving as a senior advisor. And we have created a very unique infrastructure to engage into expand our food research, which my colleague who has joined with me today, Dr. Shobana, will talk about it more in detail. And we also have an analytical chemist, a senior advisor, Dr. Ganesh Jeevan, and our international GI advisor, Dr. Ajay Kumar Henry. So with all these expertise, today in my team, we have ranging from diabetologists like Dr. Mohan, Dr. Anjana, and so on. And we also have food scientists like Dr. Shobana, advisors of all this background. We have biochemists, we have microbiologists, and we have statisticians, and we have a very integrated, cohesive team to help us in a multifaceted approach. As today, more food choices are prepared in the industry, less there are so much of outside food being consumed as a practical way of life. So we need to integrate our department with various food industries and food formulators to help us take the healthy food way forward. So now I would request Dr. Shobana to share all of our food research work and the appropriate unique infrastructure that we have in a healthcare setup and research like MDRF has today. Over to you, Dr. Shobana.
Thank you, Sudha, for the kind introduction and also giving the background of our department. And now I'll be sharing some of our facilities which we have here at Siruseri campus. I hope the slides are visible now.
No, not yet, Shobana.
Is it visible now? Is it visible?
Not yet.
Just a moment.
I stopped sharing, so you can share.
Is it visible now? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, Shobana.
Is it visible?
Yes, Shobana.
Okay. So the slide which I am sharing now currently is our prototyping facility at the Siruseri campus at Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. And this facility can cater to the development of wellness foods. We have different kinds of mills, pasta making machines, flaking machines, dryers, and polishers. And we have a product development test kitchen as well, and a facility to do the sensory evaluation of foods. And we also have spray dryer facility to develop beverage formulations. And what you see here is the food quality analysis lab at our campus. And this is a lab which is equipped with the facility to do the proximate composition of foods. And we do characterize carbohydrates and fats using contemporary techniques such as high performance liquid chromatography and gas chromatographic techniques. And we take up foods for analysis here at this lab, and we declare the values for the clinical intervention trials. And as Mrs. Sudha mentioned, let us get acquainted with the two terminologies, the glycemic index and the glycemic load. Glycemic index is the carbohydrate property of foods, and it is a scale that ranks foods based on their ability to raise the blood sugar levels upon ingestion. And we use glucose as reference food to measure the glycemic index of a food. And glycemic load is the term which is used to measure both the quality and quantity of carbohydrates, and it's nothing but the product of glycemic index and the available carbohydrate content of a given food. And glycemic index is very complex and is influenced by a multitude of factors such as the nature of starch. If a grain or a starchy food contains higher amylose content, we can expect a lower glycemic index. While a food contains a higher dietary fiber, especially the soluble dietary fiber, we can expect a lower glycemic index. And if the particle size of the formulations, if they are very fine, and if we cook them to a porridge, we can expect a very high blood sugar response. And cooking methods do influence the glycemic index, and the more the processing we do to a food, we can expect a higher glycemic response. And there are several other factors such as the fat content of the food that can influence the glycemic property of a food. And we have three different categories of glycemic index, which is the high, medium, and low. And any food with a glycemic indices value of more than 70 will be a high food, and any value between 56 and 69 will be a medium glycemic index food. And any food with a value lesser than 55 or equal to 55 will be a low glycemic index food. And we recommend low glycemic and a medium or low glycemic index food for everyone. It's not only for diabetics. And our epidemiological studies have been showing that we have been consuming higher glycemic index and glycemic load foods. So we wanted to give corrections for the foods that we consume. And we have been receiving grants from several governmental organizations. And the slide which I am showing is an outcome of an Indian Council of Medical Research sponsored study on finger millet. And as you all know, UN has declared 2023 year as a year of millets to create awareness about these grains. And millets are nutritious compared to refined grains such as polished white rice. They are rich in dietary fiber. Some contain higher levels of sulfur containing amino acids, and they are rich in vitamins and minerals. They are farmer friendly, and they leave less carbon print. And definitely, there is a need to incorporate millet in our diets. And so we wanted to conduct a lot of studies relating to the glycemic properties of millets, and one such study is the one which I am sharing now. And we had prepared four kinds of products out of finger millet. One is the minimally polished finger millet, which is a new kind of product. And the other one is the flakes out of the whole grain finger millet. And the other two is the finger millet based vermicelli and a ready to eat snack. So when we tested the glycemic index of these four products, upma prepared from the first two products, that is the minimally polished finger millet or ragi or the flakes, showed a very high GI in spite of them containing higher levels of dietary fiber. While the other two products, which is nothing but the vermicelli and extruded snack, wherein we try to incorporate functional ingredients like soluble fibers from fenugreek, and we had also incorporated soluble fiber from wheat. So these two products showed a lower glycemic index as compared to the the products prepared only from finger millet. And this is again a study this is a part of the same study. And we try to understand the day long glycemic response of ragi based diets in compared to white rice based diets. Like many have started incorporating millets in their diet. So we wanted to really understand their influence in the blood sugar levels, and what if they completely replace white rice with 100% ragi based preparations. And the answer we got was that in spite the higher dietary fiber content of ragi based preparations that they consumed, like this is a small study wherein 14 subjects were offered either white rice based diets or ragi based diets. They became their own controls. Like for 5 days they consumed ragi based preparations, and after a washout period of 9 days they took the other grain, either it is a white rice based or a ragi based preparation. And the observation was that there was no difference in the blood sugar response between those two diets, in spite of higher content of dietary fiber in finger millet based diets. And again, this is a market survey which we conducted recently in the city of Chennai, wherein we covered 4 different zones in Chennai. We visited different kinds of outlets like pharmacies, supermarkets, hypermarkets, and we withdrew samples, like especially the small millets. And we found that most of the retailers were selling polished millets. So as you see, the first row shows the unpolished millets, which we prepared at Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. And the second row shows the millet samples, which we had withdrawn from the market. And these are stereozoom microscope images, which clearly depict that the millets which are sold is predominantly polished, and all the dietary fiber components are stripped off, and it's nothing but the starchy components which are remaining. And we must all understand that these kind of polished millets are equivalent to polished white rice, and these are sold with higher prices. And this consuming these kind of polished millets may increase the glycemic load of diets, and maybe it is equivalent to white rice or maybe even worse. So we need to create awareness on the morphological features of millet in order to make judicious choice. And the approaches which are available now for preparation of healthy foods is that we need to adopt minimal processing for any kind of product as far as possible, and try to retain the grain matrix wherever it is possible, and to retain bigger particle size. For example, if we need to prepare a grits for upma, we need to prepare or use higher particle size grits instead of using a fine flour or fine flour semolina kind of a product for upma preparations. And there are certain grain varieties which by nature have a lower glycemic property compared to other grains. Such grains need to be screened and to be made available for the population. And there are approaches to include functional ingredients which are commercially available, and these kind of millets which I have been mentioning are rich in insoluble fiber, and fortification of these kind of millet formulations with soluble fiber will definitely help in modulating the glycemic response of those products. And we could incorporate soluble fibers, galactomannans, and increase the proportion of pulses which by nature have lower glycemic property. And we could include enzyme inhibitors which are involved in the digestion of food. And these kind of approaches could be adopted to develop products with lower glycemic properties. And in fact, we can use fat replacers for development of low fat foods, which I will be showing in my subsequent presentation. And again, this is a unique product which we have prepared at MDRF, and this is the flakes that is prepared from brown rice, and this is a whole grain product, and the product is kind of a firm, thicker, and smaller than normal flakes which is available in the market. As shown in the picture, the flakes which is available in the market is highly refined, and there is no dietary fiber or any other nutritious component remaining, because the process itself is designed such that during flaking, all the bran constituents are stripped off, wherein we have tried to modify the process to prepare brown rice flakes, which is nutritious and is rich in dietary fiber. And the upma prepared out of this brown rice flake exhibited a lower glycemic response or lower glycemic index as compared to the commercial flakes-based upma preparation. And these are the convenience foods which we try to prepare out of unpolished foxtail millet, and we try to improve the pulses component in these preparations. These are upma mix and sambar millet mix, wherein these are convenience foods. You can take them, boil with adequate water to consume, and we have incorporated healthy ingredients to make them nutritious. And the first picture is the noodles which we have prepared out of finger millet, and this is a 100% finger millet based noodle, and we have not mixed any maida. Generally, the products which are available in the market contains substantial amount of refined wheat or maida. We have tried to fortify fiber in this formulation, and we have developed a process to prepare gluten-free finger millet noodles. And the second one is a savory cracker with lower fat content. This cracker contains 12 to 15% fat, and this is a multigrain cracker, and we try to improve the protein content by incorporating soy protein isolate, and we have also included milk proteins in the product. And the third one is again a foxtail millet biscuit. So the fat content is lower, around 10 to 11%, and again the other product is an multigrain adai mix. These are all convenience foods, and we try to improve the nutritional properties by increasing the proportion of whole grains, pulses, and legumes, and we have incorporated functional ingredients as well. And here comes the foxtail millet pasta, finger millet pasta, and pearl millet pasta. And these are millet-based products, 100%. It does not contain any refined wheat flour. We have fortified with fiber. They are fiber-rich, and we have tried to improve the quality of fiber in these products by improving the soluble fiber content. And the other product is the bread, which we have developed recently, and this contains almost 13% fiber. We have improved the protein by incorporating milk proteins and soy protein isolate we have used in, and we have tried to improve the fiber content by using several fiber isolates in this bread. And the first one is the idli prepared from our convenience idli mix, and this idli mix is very convenient. You can mix water and keep it for half an hour. It gets fermented, and this is a multigrain idli wherein we have used 50% of pulses in this formulation, and tried to improve the fiber to an extent of 21%. And the other is a whole grain 100% chickpea based pasta. Again, this is gluten free product, and I show here the brown rice based vermicelli and noodles, which is again a gluten free product enriched with soluble fiber. And here comes the low GI porridge, which is for the first time we have developed using pulses and barley, oats, and wheat, which is again a multigrain, and we have fortified fiber. This is again a low glycemic index product. We have established, and we have conducted the glycemic index testing as well. And the other product is a new kind of a savory multigrain breakfast cereal, which can be mixed with buttermilk for consumption. And we have tried to improve the pulse component here and tried to incorporate soluble fiber. Again, this is a low glycemic index product which we have developed recently. And the other one is a low fat kind of a mixture kind of a product. This is again a chivda, which we have prepared from brown rice flakes. We have given a fat coating along with spices, and this is definitely a healthy option as compared to the deep fried snacks which are currently available in the market. Thank you. May I request Sudham to...
Oh, that's wonderful, Shobhana. Thanks for showcasing all of our prototype product development. I see fabulous lot more questions coming up on the comment section. I would like to, before we proceed further to show about talk about our works, I would like to answer a couple of questions. As probably you all have typed it when Shobhana was simultaneously presenting, you would have seen that the one common question was asked that our ancestor did not even eat rice or wheat. We started off with sirdhanya millets. So now, as Shobhana has explained, so the millets is definitely an eco-friendly and nutrient-dense and everything. One drawback from our studies, we found out millets show a high glycemic property, meaning to say they have a tendency to raise the blood glucose much quickly than what we didn't expect millets to do that. That is what is emerging from Shobhana's ragi-based diet that she showed, which is called finger millet, and other products she said that. So, but we certainly wanted to promote millet because of its nutritional content, and it can grow in less water and economically, leaves a less carbon footprint. So we have to now come with a unique research to add more functional, you have novel fibers which could be added with millets, and then you can consume it, and more processed products to enter into the market is a need of the hour. Until then, what we recommend, if you like millets, either a small millets like Kodo, Proso, Barnyard, Foxtail millet, or Bajra, Jowar, and Ragi, we would recommend you to have, when you have a millet as a meal, see to that your side accompaniments are filled with high protein choices like legumes and a lot of vegetables, salads, and so on, so that you could reduce the overall meal glycemic impact effect and the glycemic load. So same with idli and dosa, which are now available in the market, are all based on the traditional white, now current white rice. So we are coming out to the brown rice based, even with brown rice based adding on, and that will definitely take us some more time. So until then, until the market comes with the authentic science-based products entering the market, you can use side dishes of your idli, dosa, or poha. See to that you add enough legumes into that. It will improve our diet. Indian diets across incomes is lower in protein. You are increasing protein. Our diets are lower in fiber. By adding legume or pulse dal-based product, you are increasing protein, fiber. So this way, and prepare it with a low-fat recipe, definitely a way forward to consume a high GI product till we emerge with more market products. So many of you have asked me questions, where can we buy product? So we are selling 2 products through our entire Dr. Mohan's pharmacy outlets across branches. One is the Dr. Mohan's brown rice, and the other one is the Dr. Mohan's brown rice flakes. Is called poha. So poha is such thing which we made it, and many people think that brown rice or the whole grains are low GI. Not necessarily. The whole grains need to be consumed as a whole. The moment you grind them, that's what Shobhana was telling you, that glycemic index can be impacted. It doesn't mean that it is very complex for you to decide what is a healthy food. Simple message: any food that you wanted to think whether it is healthy or not, you must be able to chew them. The food that does not require chewing, that just melts in your mouth, is not healthy. It's going to sit on your tummy forever. So be chips, be bakery products, be soft foods. So anything that requires bigger particle size, requires chewing, is healthier, is a simple message for you to decide that product is a lower GI automatically, mostly. Okay. Number 2, if you know that idli is very high GI, yes it is. And how best, still it is fat-free food, and it's healthy in the other sense. So you must include more of a side dish coming from legumes instead of a plain coconut chutney and sambar. You must have some legumes put in the sambar and prepare it. Is one simple tip how you can improve the and decrease the glycemic index of idli when eaten along with the legume-based sambar. That is another way to look at eating such foods. That is one thing. And you can buy these 2 products. Other products, as Shobhana said, it's all prototypes. Some of them are evaluated, and we are trying out modalities and strategies, and soon will be coming how to hand over, because we come from only the research foundation, and this is a not-for-profit. Our research foundation is a not-for-profit, and it has no commercial interest. It's only purely research. So we have to probably think of modality, how to translate these products after properly clinically evaluated, and we need to publish our scientific merit of the data, and then definitely they will all be entering into the market in some way or the other. That is another thing. So while preparing or eating GI and GL, think of your side dish. If it is a white rice meal, you ended up in a party or go to a hotel, you're served with white rice, see to that you order side dishes of salads, raita, dal, and those kind of, if there is a legume-based preparation, that is how you must balance the high GI meal by counteracting all the side dishes of healthy component. In that way, the white rice high GI can be less stressed, it will not raise so much. So nobody eats plain rice, right? So your side dishes you must have a smarter side dishes to help you to suppress the high GI of the white rice. That is another question people have asked. And there was a question about poha, idli, dosa, I've answered. And foxtail, barnyard millet can be used, but all of them, we have recently published a foxtail millet and little millet, even as unpolished form. It shows such a high GI. See, millets are very small seeded in grain, and their starch gets crushed like a talcum powder. One is because Shobana was talking about one amylose. There are one good component of starch, one bad component. The good component of starch, millets inherently have lesser amount. So when somebody really likes culturally used to eating millets and foxtail and little millet, see to that your accompaniments are coming from legume-based curry and gravy, And that is why more than the whole millet, now today we need the support of food industry to develop using lot of functional fiber, they call it soluble fiber. If you add it, like oats and barley are good in soluble fiber. If those kind of fiber or the other soluble fiber, you get commercially that fiber ingredient for food industry and formulators. If they can add it to this foxtail millet based product, and that's how Shobana attempted, she showed all the noodles and vermicellis from ragi as well as from brown rice, and that will make the property of high GI millets to come down. So she has demonstrated how the ragi flakes upma showed a high GI. By adding these functional fiber, when she made vermicelli, it showed a medium GI. So that is the way about. So till such products appear in the market, we suggest all of them to use appropriate side dishes to go with such foxtail or kudo millet based preparation. That is how it should be consumed. And even if you are making upma or plain cooked and add sambar and eat and with the vegetables and things, then that meal will be definitely better than eating high GI millet as a kanji or a porridge, or grinding them into the flour. If you are making rotis, even they are high GI, all the millet roti, then see to that you have a chena legume curry side dish and some salad and some raita to reduce the glycemic impact. That is one suggestion. Yeah. And what are the micronutrients? Now, there's another important aspect. We are talking about carbohydrate, fat, protein. Today, in the pandemic, COVID, everybody is interested in immunity nutrition. If you are talking about the why diabetic people are more prone to, this COVID and things like that, is one is it suppresses the immunity. So to boost immunity, micronutrients play a big role. And one need not go and pop all multivitamin tablets and so on. You don't have to. And micronutrients, if you eat a balanced diet coming from good leafy vegetables and other vegetables and fruits, you can definitely get, and from the whole grains again, you get like brown rice and from the millets, whole grain, you will get all these micronutrients. So micronutrients are definitely an immune booster, and these micronutrients, one can make sure to eat in every meal if you have vegetable. So many of us have a cultural habit, if it is a tiffin-based items for breakfast and dinner, we end up with no veggies at all. Like no, it's only some chutney that goes maximum, maybe it's some tomato chutney, where again it is ground. Anything you grind it, what the teeth is supposed to do, if you grind it, it loses its merit. So try and take it as much as possible in the form of vegetable. And today the green leafy vegetables people hardly consume. They say that it is not organic, it is grown here. I think let us stop. There are many good green leafy vegetables are appearing. At least make sure at least 5 times in a week, any form of leafy vegetable. It can be added into your batter and made dosa and idli, or it can be made as your side dish. And then that is a way forward to look at the micronutrients to go in your diet. And my weight is diabetes reversible? Somebody asked, is diabetes reversible? So now the reversal of diabetes is gaining a lot of popularity all over the country. One should really understand for whom this diabetes reversal is most likely to happen is people who develop diabetes in the first place, mainly because of their huge body weight. We call it as obesity or morbid obese people. For such people, these reversal program help them to shed some weight, whereby they could definitely reverse diabetes to that extent. So that is why it is called reversible. And the public message has to be really clear, and the protocol has to be really worked out. And you'll be hearing about this program coming from Dr. Mohan Center soon too. And the Samudhan's written, my weight, age 27, weight is not mentioned, and somebody has asked me the question. I didn't understand the question clearly. Probably you can come offline and send a mail to us, shoot all your questions for a detailed discussion. And so the point of promoting millets, despite being high GI, is one is it grows in arid crop. Now we have to talk about global warming and environmental safety. In that, millet ranks better, whereas rice and wheat guzzles a lot of water for cultivation. So millets definitely needs the way forward to promote in that first sense. The second, millets have all the good micronutrients and insoluble fiber and so many other nutrients it has got. Only the problem with the millet starch, which is showing higher GI, which can be corrected if we take an appropriate accompaniment. And now the food industry has to develop a lower GI millet-based products, be vermicelli, be poha, be flour for roti making. That is where the innovation has to happen in the industry side. We are collaborating with various industries on this. I'm sure soon you will see such millet products. Until then, our suggestion is if you are making a ragi roti or ragi mudde or whatever, you take it along with chenna gari or legume gravy. That will definitely help you to reduce the overall meal effect. It will not spike so high. That is a one immediate solution until we see more and more authentic incorporated functional ingredients added, improved millet-based products appear in the market. So that is also going to happen very soon. And that is why it is still, we need to promote millets for sure. It grows in arid condition, the question. And how should a patient with diabetes choose their food? Now today, one important question you all should understand is with low glycemic index than rice? No, it is a myth. People think rice eating is bad and wheat eating. So we have enough data to show whether the population eat rice or wheat. We eat far in excess amount of rice and wheat and the carbohydrate, that itself. So the message, big message is today we must have our total carbohydrate and the calorie under control for our height, weight, and the activity. Most of us lead a sedentary lifestyle. The same amount of food what our parents or grandparents ate, they did much more physical activity. They were more active than us. So knowing that our activity, which is energy expenditure, when that is less, our energy input should also become less. It's a simple, what goes in comes out. So the more energy dense foods we must avoid. In that sense, all the carbohydrate foods or fatty foods or protein, they all carry calories. So food in moderation quantity, whether you eat rice or wheat or millets. First is the portion size and the serving size. And then the quality of carbohydrates, you must make sure that your accompaniments are selected appropriately with more protein and low fat and more veggies and salads and so on, is a simple message. So these are all the simple way one should look at it. Someone has asked about a mouth ulcer, initial question I saw. Mouth ulcer can occur due to a lot of micronutrient deficiency. Even simple riboflavin deficiency can have. So have enough dairy product milk and a good vegetables, leafy vegetable, all these micronutrient foods. Even nuts are quite, the micronutrient dense food. I'll come to about nuts a little later. So this is what one should consume. Now, so wheat, low, and patient with diabetes choose their food. So person with diabetes should choose every meal, should have a controlled calorie, within that managed with a controlled portion size, either the main course coming from rice or wheat or millet, all should be the portion size to be controlled first, and choose the healthy accompaniments first. Instead of plain sambar, you can't even find vegetable in it, you can't even find legumes in it, and those kind of things. Choose appropriate accompaniments will definitely help. And this is the way that they can continue to have. There is no special diet for people with diabetes per se. What is good for a person with diabetes is good for every one of us, because today, the growing rate of diabetes, today somebody may be normal without diabetes. It doesn't assure him or her that they are going to be ever non-diabetic. With the growing age, population, and our weights keep changing, everybody should have a healthy diet, which is as simple as the diet that we prescribe for people with diabetes too. So be sensible to choose moderation, have all variety, and include enough vegetables, fruits, dal, and adequate amount of either low-fat milk and milk-based products. I think this is the way forward to eat our main course of meal, especially with the 2 times different items. Your accompaniments should have a vegetable and a legume. That is very important. And should calorie counting, glycemic load counting? Now, calorie counting is important. As you have seen, the glycemic load counting automatically come into the picture if you choose a right main course and the accompaniment. And so the calorie counting will come only from carbohydrate, protein, fat foods. So obviously our diets are predominantly carbohydrate. So glycemic load counting. There is no such glycemic load counting tool or exchange that is still available. We are working on one very soon. We are planning to come up with a good meal-based restaurant menu card, like an exchange list that becomes more friendly for everybody to start, taking that on the right choices of food. So calorie counting is definitely important, irrespective of carbohydrate food or fatty food or protein. Your total calorie is very important. Today, even the Government of India, National Institute of Nutrition has revised for a sedentary person, female, it is only 1600 or 1700 calories what we need. So it is not, on an average, our data shows Chennai urban adult consumes 2200 calories. We are eating far excess total calorie per se. So that total quantity of food itself we must reduce now, 20-30% of the what quantity we eat. Then appropriate side dish is the way forward for an improved good diet, not only for people with diabetes, even for every family member of the diabetic family and the others who may be at risk for diabetes simply with the weight gain. And a level of processing is important to consider in the millets, because we have shown even in the hand pounded rice. People think that hand pounded rice is like a whole grain brown rice. It is not. The moment the grain are disturbed, the bran layer scratched and so on, and that will have impact on the cooking quality. Hence, the hand pounded rice raises blood glucose, very similar to white rice. I'm talking about the glycemic property per se. Whereas if you look at the micronutrients, definitely hand pounded rice may have more micronutrients than white rice. But brown rice, the whole grain, is very, very important to have, which is more intact grain. Brown rice is nothing to do with the color of the grain. It is more to do with the any rice variety, which is only the outer inedible husk is removed. That rice is called a brown rice. If it is a basmati rice, unpolished or only husk removed, it's called basmati brown rice. If it is ponni, it is called ponni brown rice. If it is Kerala matta rice, it's Kerala red brown rice, and so on. Or Sona Masuri brown rice. So brown rice is not a variety. It is the unpolished form of any rice variety. This is to be very clear. And intact form is better. As Shobhana said, the bigger grits if you make for upma that requires chewing. Simple message, anything that requires chewing is healthier. Which doesn't require chewing is not healthy, like porridge and kanji. If one can chew well with the normal dentures, better to eat more chewy foods. So ragi is good for health with all its micronutrients, but ragi, as we have shown, it is showing a high glycemic index for people with diabetic. If they wanted to consume ragi, see to that they eat along with legumes, as I repeated earlier, or with a lot of vegetable to reduce the high glycemic index of ragi. What is carb counting? Now we are all very talking about carb counting. So this is mainly started for people who are taking insulin injection, for them to know to adjust the dose of insulin. So 15 grams of carbohydrates equal to 1 unit of insulin. In the hospital, the dietitian will explain and tell them. Now today we know it is not just the total quantity of carbs, and we have shown you enough the quality of carbs also. Rather, a glycemic load counting will be the futuristic, which will be improved than carb counting. But we don't have such a list coming up yet now, because estimating the glycemic index is a human trial. It's very expensive. It takes a lot of time. So we have no such country-owned database on glycemic index of foods, of all Indian foods, by tested with the uniform ISO methodology. We're working on it. So carb counting is very helpful to control the quantity of carb that you eat, because you have to cut down the calories. So carb counting is useful, especially for people with taking insulin or type 1 children with diabetes. It's very, very important for them to do that. And the phytate levels of millets, yes, very rightly said, it's very important. The phytate levels, it's a double-edged sword. High phytate will hinder the absorption of good minerals like iron, calcium, At the same time, phytate levels can also, studies have shown it can reduce glycemic index of problems. So we have to really think phytate levels has to be so partially controlled, some sprouting or germination, not fully sprouted, then it will release more glucose. So there are some studies to be done, and agriculture scientists have also started working on identifying low phytate lines of millets and so on. It is a growing area now. So we must have less phytate ideally, not only in millets, even rice wheat has got high phytate. This is one of the biggest problem possibly in our country, with the high carbohydrate diet coming from these cereal grains containing high phytate, and major iron deficiency anemia India faces today is one of the reasons. Yeah. Skipping meals is definitely not good, especially when it is you're taking the medicine. You should not skip meals, and skipping meals, poor meal timings can cause low energy levels. It's more if you have taken the diabetic medication and insulin and skip meals for whatever reason, that's very counterproductive. It may reduce your low blood glucose. So the diabetes is the body's inability to manage normal sugar. So too low fasting and feasting both are not recommended in that sense for a person with diabetes to manage diet. So we recommend, if you are going on fasting like a Ramadan fasting, consult your diabetologist and doctors to adjust the dosage of medicine. On poor meal timings is very important. Have your biological clock respond to your timeliness. Will definitely, the body is like a computer brain, it's like artificial intelligence. It keep recording a memory. Oh, this person every day the food comes in. So the body gets adapted very nicely with proper timely meals in that way. Today, with the fast-paced life, all of us do not have a timely eating, a right time meal. That could be one of the reasons many have developed into a lot more of GERD, gastric reflux, or inflammatory bowel disease, and so on. A lot of gastritis problem. I think it's a good idea to start having a timely meal, which is very, very important. Phytate can be managed through germination, but germination has to be controlled partially so that it does not release too much of starch into glucose, because germination can also hydrolyze starch. So I think probably Shobhana will be the best person to talk about the effect of germination and phytate. Over to you, Shobhana.
Yes, as Sudha mentioned, germination is going to hydrolyze the carbohydrates, releasing lower molecular weight sugars and maltodextrins, which is going to definitely raise the blood sugar level. And yes, we need to control the germination. And control germination indeed is beneficial. It can improve the GABA content, gamma aminobutyric acid content of grains, and even soaking, roasting, and hydrothermal processing will help in reducing the phytate content. But as such, phytate content in millets are not that very high. It is between 0.5% or 0.6% in the grain, which is very negligible. And indeed, as Sudha mentioned, scientists are working towards developing low phytate lines, and we have been working on the bioavailability of zinc and iron from foxtail, finger millet, and little millet, and we have been getting like moderate kind of bioavailability, and definitely research in these lines are required. And grains with higher bioavailability of micronutrients and higher amylose content and higher dietary fiber, especially if there are any varieties with higher soluble fiber content in these kind of millets, will be definitely useful for the population.
Yeah, good question about nuts. Many of our patients ask when we started with the cashew nut study sponsored by Cashew Export Council of India and Commerce Ministry. So this cashew nuts, people were afraid, oh, it's fattening. People have thought that nuts are high in cholesterol and energy. In fact, our study, we completed the cashew nut supplementation study in people with type 2 diabetes and published the data. And we had international collaborators from Harvard School of Public Health and from Spain, very popular scientist on nuts, very renowned scientist. And we interestingly found cashew nuts do contain a lot of calories. One handful of nuts will approximately give you 200 calories. So you need to adjust the 200 calories. By replacing carbohydrates in Indian diet is more meaningful because our diets are very high carbohydrate. So for example, if you are taking 3 idlis in the breakfast, cut down 1 idli when you want to take 1 cashew nut full in the mid-morning as a snack. and cut down a little bit of half cup rice. And if you are taking rotis, take one roti less, and to balance your 200 calorie. If you do that, and if you replace the cashew nut calories by cutting down your starchy food, definitely the good cholesterol HDL increase and our blood pressure significantly reduced. That is a study finding we found. So cashew nuts are definitely, all kinds of nuts are good. Every day a handful of nuts is what is the moderation. One should not go about consuming 200, 300 grams of nuts. One handful of nuts would weigh roughly 30 or 1 ounce or 30 gram of nuts. So that is what is very important. And resistant maltodextrin is, yes, it is a functional fiber. So that is what Shobana prepared with the ragi vermicelli. And definitely we were able to break down to that extent from very high GI to medium GI. But again, the food matrix, how the resistant maltodextrin, it varies from product to product, and the amount of RMD that you can add, is also very important to develop in a product and evaluate through a glycemic index session. So that is something. And someone has asked about intermittent fasting, good for diabetes. Intermittent fasting is good for people, especially those who have got obesity combined with diabetes, certainly for that people. And for them, it is good to choose some timings of 14, 15, because there are big studies showing that almost 15 to 16 hours of intermittent fasting. So you must plan either the evening 6 till morning, 9 probably is a good, have early dinner, which is always anyway healthier, and before you go to sleep, so that do not have a heavy dinner. As the saying goes, eat a rich man's breakfast and have a poor man's dinner. That will definitely keep your stomach light, and then that way it is very good. And you can plan to have intermittent fasting, especially those who are with obesity. And artificial sweeteners, there is a good question about artificial sweeteners today. FSSA has approved quite a few sweeteners. All of them can be taken, and they are called low-calorie sweeteners. But the amount of sweetener that we use will hardly give you 0.1 calorie or 2. So it's practically, in clinical relevance, it's calorie-free in that sense. But we must make sure that we use the artificial sweeteners for our basic beverages like coffee and tea. We don't encourage somebody preparing a syrup out of artificial sweetener and frying the gulab jamun in hot ghee and fat and then consuming it as, calling it as a diabetic gulab jamun. Definitely it is not healthy. In that sense, artificial sweeteners should not be used at all. Do not use artificial sweeteners for your dessert preparation, which is not only loaded with sugar, equally loaded with ghee and fat. So be sensible enough to use for artificial sweetness for your basic coffee and tea kind of a beverages. Then they are okay. That is what we would say. And you can have groundnuts, any kind of a nuts. One handful is good enough. Do not have more nuts than that is very calorie dense. So you must make sure nuts are good in other nutrients and polyphenols and so on. And now important, the second major contributor, big chunk of total calorie from Indian diet comes from our cereal staples like rice, wheat or millet. The second big source of calorie comes from our cooking oil. Either North Indian, South Indian, East or West, all of us use cooking oil as a medium. There are varieties of oil in the market. To tell you honestly, there is no single perfect oil. If at all, maybe the mustard oil is the nearest containing, because our diets lack N3, omega-3 PUFA oil, omega-3 PUFA nutrient less in our diet, and we consume far in excess, especially in South India, we consume high N6 PUFA. So to balance a healthy oil, which should have high monounsaturated fatty acid, because that is lacking from other sources of food in our diet. So we have to look for oil which has got high MUFA, low saturated fatty acid, and have N3 PUFA if possible, and low or moderate amount of N6 PUFA. So looking at all this, probably the sunflower oil has got very high N6 PUFA, which is not so healthy. And mustard oil has got moderate amount. It has got good high amount of MUFA. Even our traditional South Indian oils like gingerly or sesame oil and groundnut oil has got a good moderate amount of MUFA, which is definitely better than our sunflower oil in that sense. But N3 PUFA, most of them do not have, except the mustard oil and canola oil that is appearing in the market now. That is also has got good amount of MUFA. So what we recommend to people is since there is no one single oil, even olive oil, people go about olive oil, they think it's very healthy. It is not. Olive oil is very high in MUFA, but it does not have N3 PUFA, which is missing in our Indian diet. So hence you should have a rotation of oil, use more than one variety of oil for a combination, and look for oil which will have all the moderate amount of it is present. So keep buying our traditional gingerly oil, groundnut oil, rice bran oil, and mustard oil if you can take the taste of mustard oil. And these oils can be definitely in combination can be consumed. How can we include a resistant starch to our diabetic diet? So resistant starch is a functional ingredient that is available, and there are studies. If you have a leftover rice, you put it in freezer, and where at such a low minus temperature, it can develop the non-digestible carbohydrate in the form of resistant starch, and then you can reheat and take it. It might definitely have to lower. But again, we have done some studies with resistant starch added. The study, it's very in which form the resistant starch is added is important. If you like a resistant starch to be added in your dosa idli batter, also you can mix it and prepare your dosa or idli out of that. Or your leftover rice can be stored in deep freezer and thereby and taken as a frozen rice and then heated some amount, a very small negligible amount. But we are working out on the dose of resistant starch needed to really impact to bring down the blood glucose is still a big question mark. Research is further needed in this area. It's not just 3 gram, 4 gram, 5 gram resistant starch is not going to help. We tested with 10 gram resistant starch per meal. We found it is not showing great impact. So per day, 30 gram resistant starch we've added in 3 meals. So we found that it is not greatly improving. So we need to work on this area on resistant starch more before we could come with a clear guidelines on that. So how frequently should a patient with diabetes have food and why? So does intermittent fasting work? I've answered. So there is there are two schools of thought. Some schools say a small frequent meal is good. Some says 2-3 traditional meals is good. It is all depends on individualized. Now today the world is moving on a precision nutrition and individualized prescription. So one should experiment themselves with if they can have every 3 to 4 hours a small bout so that they don't feel extremely hungry. So as I told you, fasting and feasting both are not good. In that way, small frequent meals will help you to sustain. It will not allow you to take a very low blood sugar or very high blood sugar. So the extreme swings can be avoided with the small frequent meals, and it is definitely on that way. It is good to have small frequent meals. It's so far good, and large meals. It's no clear data emerging as of now. And will leftover rice with the water increase diabetes? Yes, with leftover rice with water, it becomes very soft. It becomes a porridge, and the starch is much more hydrolyzed. It is likely to show a higher GI. That is where all this kanji or the porridge, one need to really look at the particle size or the porridge mix should have prepared with some functional fiber. Without that, it is going to show a higher GI. If there is no chewing and the leftover rice with water kanji, this was very much needed those days when there is a lot of physical strenuous activity justified for people to have such a high GI food choice. But now we are just following our traditional food choices, but we are not following our physical activity, traditional habits of doing so much of intense physical activity. With the sedentary lifestyle, they become mismatched. So our ongoing and future research plans, I think, Shobhana, you can share the food research that we do at our department in MDRF.
So definitely we would like to engage ourselves in development of scientific evidence-based wellness foods, and we wanted to reformulate traditional foods with by incorporating higher proportions of pulses and other nutritious ingredients to make it more suitable for the current population. And we would like to venture into wellness foods, especially in the dairy food category. And there are studies which suggest that dairy foods have higher insulinemic index, and we definitely wanted to bring in lot of healthy dairy food products, and we wanted to venture into fortification of fiber in dairy products. And currently we have this much plans, and I would like to ask Sudha to further.
Yeah. So the ongoing research, there are a lot of confusion exists in the consumer world about the dairy. Like Shobana said, it has got low glycemic index. So far, our population-based studies have shown those who consume enough, close to half a liter of milk and products per day, definitely likely to have a lowest risk of diabetes. And same with pulses and legumes. But dairy do have higher insulin stimulating properties. So we are trying to start some future studies how we can address, in addition to lower GI, also the dairy should have a lower insulin stimulating properties so that we don't aggravate insulin resistance, which we Indians are more prone to, that kind of a research. And our ongoing research now, we are like cashew nut. Almond Board of California has given us almond study. The study just got completed and the analysis is going on. And now we found initially the study results will be out in probably in a scientific publication. And we are also going to start a study from American pistachio growers and hope to start the study in the next couple of months. This study will begin. So we are engaging with the international collaborators. And with brown rice, we have done exhaustive study level, and we have worked through a funded project from US government and Harvard School of Public Health collaborators from international level. We completed those who eat brown rice based meals all the 3 times. For 3 months, we fed them a feeding trial, and we found out their inflammatory marker reduces. So for especially in pandemic COVID, people should definitely eat more brown rice for good. Definitely, it has got that benefit to prove, especially those who have got metabolic risk, like abdominal obesity, blood pressure, and high triglyceride or low HDL. These people definitely will benefit by consuming brown rice. That's what we have shown in the study that got published 2 years back. So we have collaborators internationally and national. We have collaborators with a lot of food industry. We serve as a R&D partner to do for their new product development for glycemic index testing. And for many supplement industry, we do a randomized control trial, either with the sensor base, which Shobana showed. Now we have a Freestyle Libre sensor, or we do a 3 months leading trial. We have a test kitchen to provide all the meals and serve them. So these are the various partners we work with, and there is a lot more study. We have now an oil study. When we are talking about Indian Council of Medical Research is sponsored, we are going to test with overweight people and selecting them for groundnut oil versus sunflower oil. The study is just started now. So we will have more proven answers for all these questions, which oil is good and so on. And that's another study which we are going to write. And we are also working in collaboration in the newer technological era now with Kalasalingam Academy of Research Education. We have an MOU, and we are working in the space of artificial intelligence and machine learning based to develop better exchange, like glycemic load counting, So we work with Dr. Subhadra Shadri Srinivasan in Kalasalingam and Dr. Vasudevan. So we have a collaborative work to develop a AML based and tool to develop and come. Hopefully in the next few sessions, we have more information to share with you. So that is the exciting work that you are entering into the technological era now. So I think, thank you all the viewers for wonderful question. So there's a question about paneer. Paneer, one should also check it has got fat content also in addition to protein. So considering the moderate amount of fat, if a person loves paneer, have once a week, not a problem. But do not fry the paneer. You can put it in a spinach, palak paneer, boil them and put it in. It's still a better tactic than fry the paneer, add more fat to it. So the way in which you consume is important. As I told you, everything counts calorie. Total calorie counting is important to restrict calorie. Now, most of the food products, we have calories too. So that is good hand. So thank you very much. And we will catch up with more future session. Please do remember to share your feedback and your comments and questions. And then that will help us to plan our next session with you all to come up with more exciting news about all about the food that we eat and what it matters to us and for our future generation. Thank you all.
Thank you.